I'd like to extend a warm welcome to you all here this evening. Esteemed guests, friends of the university, colleagues, it's good to see you all here today. The university was named after Sir John Moores in 1992, and the only university in the UK to be named after a living person at the time, and he was our first honorary fellow back in 1987. And we named the university in his honour as somebody who embodied and upheld the values that any university would be proud to instill in their students: honesty, integrity, equality, opportunity, and plain and simple hard work. The items on display here at the Museum of Liverpool give just a flavour of the 5-year Littlewoods Heritage Project, orchestrated and led by Professor Ruth Doughty from the Liverpool Screen School, who has personally and with great dedication recorded the extraordinary human story and the impact of Littlewoods. And I'm delighted that through Ruth's outstanding work, we've been able to tell the incredible story of Littlewoods. And thanks to our hosts, the National Museums of Liverpool, we can share with you the legacy of this family business, which resonates still and with many thousands of people who are touched by their sense of community. So it's my great pleasure to invite Dr. Ruth Doughty to present the Littlewoods Legacy. Welcome, Ruth.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Vice-Chancellor, for your very kind words. And yeah, I am a doctor, I'm not a professor. Okay, just saying that straight. And also thank you ever so much to the Museum of Liverpool for hosting this event, but also for hosting the Littlewoods exhibition, which, as Marcus just said, has been running for 5 years, the Littlewoods Heritage Project. But we've had the exhibition here, started in February, and we're going through to the end of June. So hold on, I have a clicker, okay? Is that working? There we go. Right, we have technology that's working, hopefully. Okay, so it's been a real privilege to work on this project, to actually tell the stories of Sir John and Mr. Cecil, and about the workforce. And the majority of that workforce were women, which back in the time was really, really unusual. And today we're really celebrating the culmination of 5 years of research. And so I want to tell you a little bit about the process, how the project came about. But also we were funded, just to get that in, we were funded by Heritage Lottery, the National Lottery, and also by John Moores University. So what happened was, when I'm not doing the Littlewoods Heritage Project, I'm actually head of the Film Studies department. And I was driving into work and I was listening to Radio Merseyside. And I heard the news that the Littlewoods building on the Edge Lane Road, which I'm sure most people in here know, I heard it was going to become a film studio. Now, as a head of film studies, that's very, very exciting. Because at the moment, when our students graduate, if they want to really get on in the film career, they have to go to London, you know? But we are the second most filmed in city. But the great news about having a film studio in this city means that our students can stay here in Liverpool and continue with their careers. So, as I kind of went into the office, jumping for joy, one of my colleagues said, but do you know the history of the Littlewoods building? And do you know the history of Littlewoods? Now, I said, well, I remember as a kid, the Littlewoods pools man used to come around. I've got my mum and dad here. And quite often you hadn't quite finished off filling in the coupon. And I was given the money and told to run after the pools man. So that's kind of my memories of the Littlewoods pools. But my friend started showing me images on the internet of almost like warehouses of women marking the pools coupons. And it was like, wow, I want to know more. So where do you think is the best place to start to know more about Sir John Moores and Littlewoods? I know, I'll go to the Liverpool John Moores Library. So I went to the library and said, what have you got? And they said, nothing. I was like, oh, okay, this is a bit odd. And they told me, actually, that there is a Littlewoods archive, but it is held at the National Football Museum, the archive in Preston. So I then went off to Preston and found this wonderful man in the corner. This is Peter Holmes, and he is the curator at the National Football Museum. And he showed me that there was kind of like about 150 boxes full of vintage photographs, which was just amazing. It was so exciting. Here we go. And here's just kind of a few selections of what we saw. So this is what I mean about these huge warehouses of the women checking the pool's coupons. And obviously this is the days before automation, so there was no computers. These women were doing amazingly difficult calculations. But I also found images about the wartime efforts, how during World War II, all of the Littlewoods buildings were repurposed for the war. And I'll come back to that a little bit later. Also found brilliant photos of day trips, how all of the staff would go on day trips to the Isle of Man, to Blackpool. I even heard that the police would manipulate the traffic lights to let the convoys of coaches taking people to Blackpool. I think this sounds like a good idea. I think we should try it. And also how Littlewoods was one of the first companies to start using computers, so the IBM computers and some really wonderful ancient technology. So this is kind of what we were looking at in these boxes. And so I just sort of said, this is fantastic, but how can the general public see this? Peter said, well, the archive is open 1 day a week. We allow 2 people in at a time, and it's in Preston. And it's like, come on, this is an archive that really needs to be seen. And at which point I started thinking, hold on, at John Moores University, we have internship money for students. So I started exploring that to see if we could get teams of students in to digitize the images so that we could share them to create a digital archive. So over the last 5 years, I've had teams of, these students have all been paid, through the internship scheme. It's been fantastic. But in total, I have had 22 paid internships. And some of these have been digital archive curators, museum assistants. We've also had filmmakers, editors, web designers. We have an intern here today. Hi, Emily. She's hiding behind there. Filmmaking intern with us. But our first intern in the red jacket there is Martin. Martin, please stand up. There you go, there's Martin. And this project would not be possible without Martin. I just want to tell you a little bit about Martin's internship interview. Okay, when a lot of students have come in and I say, who founded Littlewoods? And they look at me and say, oh, I don't know. Have you heard of John Moores? Oh, you just see the lights go on. So, but no, Martin's interview is a little bit different. And unfortunately, he can't get to the microphone, but do ask him afterwards. Because Martin brought some newspaper clippings that told me about his grandpa, who went to prison for defrauding Littlewoods pools. It was just wonderful. He worked for the post office and managed to sneakily submit a kind of late slip, but changed the date on it. But do ask Martin about it. So Martin's been with me for the whole 5 years on this project. But yeah, and we've worked with Peter at the National Football Museum, but we've also worked with the Special Collections team here at LJMU, who've been absolutely fantastic, mentoring our students, and we've actually got a team with them in there at the moment. So over the last 5 years, we managed to We managed to digitise over 2,000 vintage images, documents, promotional materials, and that's kind of what the exhibition consists of, and you can have a look at the exhibition afterwards. And a lot of these images have just been sat in boxes for decades with nobody being able to access them. But in addition to creating the archive, so we now have a digital archive, and anybody anywhere in the world can access this archive. And just to let you know, we're looking to do a community event at the university next month. So if anybody wants to learn how to explore and research the archive, you can have a look and come along to that event. Because, to be honest, the software's not that easy. So we'll teach you, and hopefully I can learn as well, because it's a bit tricky. But yeah, so that's the archive. But also, in addition to the archive, we have been on a wonderful trip with the community. They call themselves the Littlewoodies. Do we have any Littlewoodies in here today? Oh, I see 1, 2, 3. Okay, not many, but welcome, the wonderful Littlewoodies. So we've done a series of oral history interviews. I think in total now we've got 31 interviews where we've invited people to the university. We've also been to some people's houses, and we've got people to record their testimonies, their memories of working for Littlewoods, because it becomes very apparent when you talk to a Littlewoodie about how special their memories are of working for the company and working for Sir John and Mr. Cecil. Let me just see. So over time, what happened was we had our first years on the Introduction to Documentary module. They did some of the recordings. We also had some internships with a local production company, Hurricane Pictures. But yeah, so we've done this series of interviews, and more recently, we just actually this month, not this month, sorry, 2 weeks ago, so last month, we interviewed a wonderful lady called Linda Loy, who talked to us. She was the training officer for equal opportunities. And she actually told us about the equal opportunities policies, which we weren't aware of. Because previously we'd only had access to the Pools archive, and there was no information about equal opportunities in that archive. But Linda reached out to us, and we soon found out that because John Moores Jr. went and got his education in New York, in Syracuse University, he got very involved in the civil rights movement. And so then when he came back to the UK, he was very much wanting to make sure that there was equality and diversity in Littlewoods, and this was back in the late 60s. And following on from that, after the Toxteth riot, Sir John Moores Jr. actually reached out to the LA Defence Committee and said, how can Littlewoods help with the black community? What can we do? And as a result of that, they set up an entry to business program where 4 black youngsters were invited into the management training scheme. So I think, it's been really interesting as these kind of oral history interviews over time have progressed, and the fact that even 2 weeks ago we were finding out information that we hadn't heard of in the last 5 years. So we've heard so many wonderful stories from people who worked in the pools, people who worked for home shopping, the retail stores, so many different departments, computing, correspondence, permutations. And we're going to give you a little bit of a taster now. We've got a little bit of a show reel made up from some of the snippets. We're hoping the technology is going to work. But also, I just want to point out that not everything was rosy. You'll also hear of the tragic tale of the decline of J&C Moore printers. which was sold off just before Littlewoods sort of was dissolved, and they didn't get the same redundancy package. And it was very important for us that we made sure that all of the stories were told, and that one was particularly sad. But we're going to show you the clip now from the oral history interviews.
The Pools, of course, was a family business. Started off with John and Cecil, of course, was known as the chief, and he was often present in many of the buildings, always liked to go around and see his staff. So there was always very much a sort of a family and a friendly atmosphere, and whilst it was friendly, it adhered to very strict policies and made sure that the integrity of the business was always upheld.
We opened the post on a Friday. Post would come along, slit the envelopes on a Friday. Saturday, we'd still be opening post, and then the Saturday afternoon, all the results would come out. And then also we had a Wednesday for filling. We'd have big, wooden, heavy. We used to have to go the end of the row and lift this heavy box about that big with 3 lots of coupons stacked that high. Lift up the box, bring it onto your desk, set it up, get your envelopes, everything sorted, so you'd have the envelopes ready, opened ready, 1, 2, 3, seal 1, 2, and the music would be going all day.
95% of the people who work there were women, and sometimes women don't get on, but a lot of the women all started when they were young, like myself, all your friends from school, so there was a great atmosphere. It was a lovely place to work.
It was a marvellous place to work for, because I was earning more money than my father at that time. Now, you mightn't think £11 a week is a lot, but you're talking about in 1958. That was a lot of money. They were the best paid company, I reckon, in Liverpool. Very, very generous, marvellous company to work for.
Personnel in my day, and she came with a bottle of whiskey and a little card of Mr. Cecil, saying, here's off Mr. Cecil, get well soon, I mean, don't rush, get back when you're well, thank you very much. I can't see that happening today, can you?
You know, if the women were working there and the children were at school, if the school phoned up and said the child was ill, by the time they got the coat and the bag, a taxi would be at the door taking them home free to be with the child.
I was in the relay team. All the different buildings, we used to have a sports day against each other in the summer. So we had relay, volleyball, netball, football.
The day trips was something that were looked forward to by all the members of staff. You probably heard the story about they had to pay for the day trip, did you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, well, they would pay 10 shillings to go on the day trip to book their place. But it was to ensure that they had a commitment to it. But when they got to the other end, they got the 10 bob back, so they could actually go out and spend it. But the day trips were just something else, something that is not done these days.
Rule 18 was you're not supposed to fraternise with members of the opposite sex in Littlewoods. So, not that we took a huge amount of notice, but you had to be fairly discreet. So Rule 18, it wasn't worded like that. It was something about bringing the company into disrepute or whatever. But basically it was, you don't date the staff. And we were doing the first Christmas layout. It was probably about October of 1917, doing this Christmas layout. And one of the girls on lingerie, I thought, you know, she's very attractive. So that was the first time I broke Rule 18.
And clearly you broke Rule 18 when you married your wife.
I did break Rule 18 when I married my wife.
Well, they had a buyout, and as far as I was concerned, he was just there to bowl the place up. And at the end of the day, when they did insolvency, I think that's what you call it, he bought the company for £1 off Littlewoods. It went from J.C. Moores in Edge Lane, and then they moved to a place called JCM Media in Sand Hills for just over 12 months when it went bust.
So you didn't get the same package that everybody else did when Littlewoods...
Got nothing.
Nothing.
37 years down the pan.
I think the whole mail order was set up by Sir John Moores and Cecil around allowing working class people to buy things on a credit basis. So that's another part of it I probably loved, that it gave people the opportunity to buy things and not have to pay upfront for them.
If you asked me to describe him, I would say he was a man ahead of his time. He didn't come to a store to talk to the store manager. He came to talk to the people that worked on the coalface of his business and had direct contact with the customers to learn what the business was about, where its shortcomings were, where its strengths, what they thought should be changed, etc. He was a tremendous listener. He didn't talk down to, people who were wearing blue supervisory uniforms on the sales floor. When he asked them questions, he was interested. When he asked them to volunteer information, he listened.
I don't want there to be a tendency to look back with these sort of rose-coloured glasses and say all was fine and rosy in the Littlewoods garden. It wasn't. But certainly looking at what Littlewoods were doing at that time, it was pioneering, it was progressive, it was bold, it was risky, and I think that it has left a legacy where now we talk about, and the language has changed. We talk about equality and diversity. Littlewoods really were one of the first organisations to take us on that journey.
For me, it was really important to make sure that we get the voices of Littlewoodies in this presentation, because the Littlewoods Heritage Project would not have happened without the community. And their testimonies have informed the exhibition, and they have supported us all the way through the last 5 years. And just to reflect on some of the things that was said there, that at the end, that was Linda Loy who was talking about equal opportunities. And Littlewoods was the first UK commercial company to have an equal opportunities policy put in place. And so Linda had come along to see the exhibition when we launched in February. And she kind of felt that it was a little bit sort of saccharine and, oh, Miss Littlewoods, wasn't it pretty? Where she actually fought really hard to make sure that the Miss Littlewood competition was closed down. Because by the time we hit the 90s, women were starting to feel a little bit awkward about this old beauty pageant. But then the gentleman we saw before that, Mr. Keith Moore, he was no relation to the Moores family. I interviewed him via Teams. He lives in Melbourne, Australia, and he is 96. Honestly, the stories he told, it was just wonderful. The time that the Littlewoodies have given us to engage with our project has just been phenomenal. And I like Bob's idea that when staff are ill, they get a bottle of whiskey. Vice Chancellor, are you listening? That would be good. Okay, so in addition to the oral history interviews, oh, wrong way, is that the way? We also made a community film. Now, this was done in collaboration with local arts organisation Metal, and we commissioned 3 artists to work on our Littlewoods community film. So we had Laura Spark, who you can see in the image there, and we had Jeff Young, who is the writer. Sorry, Laura is the filmmaker, Jeff Young is the writer, and we had Jezebel, who was the composer. Jezebel Halewood-Lagasse, that is. And Laura has also been a project manager and helped us design and curate the exhibition as well. So it's really been myself, Martin, and Laura that have run this project. So the community film was going to be done after we'd done all of the oral history interviews. But COVID happened. Okay, so everything kind of went the wrong way round. We'd started to digitize lots of images, but we hadn't done the oral history interviews. We had a number of coffee mornings and events and had managed to get quite a lot of conversations with Littlewoodies, so we knew quite a bit of the information. So Laura's actually an animator. So what she did during lockdown was create the Edge Lane building out of an Amazon box. Okay, as you can see here. And she used all of the vintage photographs and she animated them. Now, this was always going to be part of the agenda in any case. And just prior to COVID, we managed to do 3 animation workshops with local school children. So, you know, this has really been an intergenerational project involving primary schools, university students, and artists. So I'm going to show you a clip now. We weren't able to show you the full community film. That's 15 minutes. It is available over in the exhibition. We've got headphones if you want to have a listen. It's also available on the website we created if anybody wants to watch it in its entirety. But we have an excerpt to show you now of the film, which was called Above All, which apparently that used to be lit up on the outside. The words above all were lit up on the outside of the Edge Lane building.
Lucky horseshoe, rabbit's foot,
hopes and wishes, magic numbers,
jackpot.
At kitchen tables everywhere, the pool's coupon is like a map of dreams.
Listen to the radio for the scores, check the coupon, see the winners in the echo. Smiling for the camera, the old man receives his winnings.
The moment his life changes in his eyes.
W for winner. Those who ended up quids in were 7 locals from Bermondsey's Hand and Marigold. Change your life. £3,000. Back to work. 64 tomorrow.
The air raid shelter in the dark while bombs are falling somewhere in the city.
Love letters sewn in parachutes, secret messages falling from the heavens.
Good luck. Please be safe.
Luck, please be safe.
I'll think of you.
I'll think of you.
Good luck. Please be safe.
Good luck.
I'll think of you.
Please be safe. I'll think of you.
Good luck. Please be safe. I'll think of you.
Good luck. Please be safe. I'll think of you. And please come home again.
Barrage balloons and parachutes, like silk dreams floating, falling through the sky.
Shafts of light, like sunbeams, shine through broken glass, like life's illuminations. I stand there in the pools of light and listen to the stories in the air.
I hear old songs inside my head, reminding me of girls that I used to work with.
The typing pool, tap-tapping to the beat of T for 2, in perfect rhythm. You type faster with the song stuck in your head. Typewriters tapping out the tune. Touch typing to music. Fingers tap dancing to Victor Sylvester. 60 words a minute. No mistakes, to the tune of music while you work.
I can hear them in my memories, the sing-alongs, the fun we had, the dancing, I can hear that girl who sang like Doris Day, so lovely. Fly me to the moon. Above all.
The best thing was the dancing in the tea breaks when we'd listen to the radio. In my dreams, it was a building full of songs, the years fly by and we sing along in dreams.
Cups of tea and biscuits, jokes and nicknames, gossip about lovebirds, the men who waited at the gates. The way we laughed at flashes in the night. I joined the choir. I couldn't sing. We sang our hearts out at the Philharmonic.
I acted in the Christmas show. The laughter of that night rings down the years. Someone's mum, someone's auntie, everyone knew a Littlewoods girl, someone's sister, someone's daughter, half the girls you went to school with. None of us have changed. The high heel shoes I saved up for, I wore them to the dance. Hair high and lacquered, I danced all night to favourite songs and sang them, slightly drunk on my way home. I want to win Miss Littlewoods. Imagine that. My photo in the paper. I want to wear the sash and crown and be the envy of the other girls.
And now, finalist number 8, Angela Collinson, Miss Walton Hall Avenue.
My future's in the gypsy's crystal ball.
When summer came, some of us left to go and work in Butlins for the season. Came back because we loved it. Came back because life just wasn't the same.
12,000 people in a convoy on the days we went to Blackpool. They'd even stop the cars and change the traffic lights to let the coaches through.
In kiss-me-quick cowboy hats, we strolled along the prom in Blackpool sunshine. The laughs we had on the wild mouse and the caterpillar. The kiss upon my lips that made me swoon.
That day trip to Blackpool, all the laughter on the waltzes and the pleasure beach. Arm in arm along the prom, my future in the gypsy's crystal ball.
The ballroom and the roller coaster. Candy floss and eyeing up the fellas.
I send a postcard home to me mum. Wish you were here. We danced beneath the lights.
On Mondays you could hear a pin drop. Every single one of us fell silent. Rows and rows of women concentrating, coupon marking in the hush.
Sports day was a laugh. Never won much. Maybe second in the sack race. Fell over in a heap.
It's not the winning, it's the taking part that counts.
I laughed until I cried.
Years after we left, we meet up and have a drink in the Adelphi. 20 or 30 Littlewoodies, laughing at the stories, good old days.
There are faces I remember. Lipstick traces and the sparkling eyes of friends.
Okay, so that gives you just an excerpt from the community film that we made during lockdown with our very creative filmmaker, Laura. So then we launched the exhibition. We tried it out at the university. We've been in the cathedral. We went to the very headquarters as well, because it's part of their history as well. When Littlewoods disbanded, it went into the football pools, it went online, and then Shop Direct took over the retail arm, which is now Very. So they held an exhibition. And we were really, really pleased with our exhibition. But then we saw on Facebook a few little woodies were saying, yeah, but hold on, there's not a lot of information about the stores. We don't feel like they've actually captured the full story. Where's all the stuff about Crosby, in particular the call centre? And we licked our wounds for a little bit. But then we thought, hold on. No, it's about feedback. And at that point, we talked to Very and said, please, can we access your archive? So, since it was last month, Martin and I managed to get into the Very archive. In the Very archive, we had 80 boxes, and we had 5 days. So we worked very, very hard, and so we've now digitized another 1,300 vintage photographs. I'll just show you. Here we go. Here's some of the Very archive, seen for the first time here today. Some wonderful artist illustrations of stores, lots of stores photographs. Again, some more of the social history. So we've got the choir at the top, the songsters. Some people might recognise the Littlewoods store in the right. That was when the Liverpool store reopened. Some very questionable fashions. And we also found out that Sir John Moores had a hotel resort in Bermuda, which is absolutely wonderful. Okay, so what have we learned? What are the reflections now? What I should mention, we still didn't find any photos of the Crosby call centre, which is a shame, but we'll keep trying to find some. So how do we now reflect? What have we learned? What is the legacy of Littlewoods? Now, all of the stores managers kept talking to me about something called the Message to Garcia, and we did not know what that was. So apparently it was an essay that was written by Elbert Hubbard in 1899. And it was about President McKinley, who's in the top left there, trying to get a message to the Cuban General Garcia, who was leading the insurgents prior to the Spanish-American War. Now, nobody knew where Garcia was. They didn't know how to get this message to him. But this gentleman on the right-hand side, Andrew Rowan, was tasked with this mission. He had to go across really sort of hostile territory to give this man a message. And nobody really knows what happened. We know he had to get across water. He had to get through the jungle. 3 weeks later, that message had been delivered. And Sir John Moores always told this story because it's about hard work, using your initiative. Even if you don't know how to do something, just keep going, have belief in yourself, and don't give up in the face of adversity. And so all of the store managers knew this, and it got retold to me, you know, if you were going on your first date with the girl of your dreams and you're leaving the store and there's a problem with the lock, you've got to find a way to fix it because the store comes first. You've just got to work it out. And so it's this idea of not asking questions, even if you don't know how to do things, just have a go. And I think actually thinking about today being the D-Day 80th anniversary, I think it's really poignant and important to think about Littlewood's role in the wartime effort. And, you know, because of the war, the men go off to war, although it was a workforce predominantly made of women. The pools wasn't really huge during the wartime. In fact, the 7 pools companies came together and they created the Unity pools. But what Sir John and Mr. Cecil did was they repurposed all of their buildings for the wartime effort. And if you actually hear these statistics, it's amazing what they achieved. They created 12 million shells, 6 million fuses, 5 million parachutes, 25,000 vehicles, 20,000 barrage balloons, 750 Wellington frames, I believe that's an aircraft, 50,000 dinghies, 4,100 pontoons and storm boats. Well, for me, that is most definitely the message to Garcia. You know, your business can't work during the worst wartime, so they might not know how to do things, but they found a way to do it. They sent their women off to get trained. And I think we've also, in this project, managed to kind of capture a little bit of this sort of spirit of Sir John Moores. These are actually some of my favourite photos. We found these in the very archive. Some wonderful candid photos that aren't the promotional photos. They're more of the family shoots. And in particular, being head of film studies, to see Sir John Moores holding a video camera, you know, it's just wonderful. But I think, in a way, we've captured this spirit of the message to Garcia in the project, because as a team, we had no experience of applying for funds. I'm a traditional film historian and suddenly ended up producing a film, which I'd never done before. We've made a website, we've had community events, we've created an archive, and we've curated an exhibition, and we'd never done any of this before. But I know the secret of the message to Garcia, and it's all about collaboration. It is about working with the amazing people we have in this city. We have worked with arts community projects. We've worked with curators. We work with the special collections teams, local artists, school children and teachers, students and academics, the local companies, Pools and Very, museums, the Football Museum and the museum here, but most importantly, community. And I think that's at the heart of this project. And for me, I used to traditionally write books and articles that other academics would maybe one day read. But I think it is about looking beyond the doors of the university, connecting to the community, and doing these real rich projects that can make a huge difference. And LJMU, we are the rightful custodians of Sir John Moores and Cecil Moores' heritage. And we've just absolutely had such a wonderful time working with the Littlewoodies and the community creating this project. And I really hope you enjoy the exhibition, and I hope you enjoy searching the archive, and I hope that we've managed to capture this legacy and this history that will continue on for the next generations. Thank you.
Do I have a... Oh. Okay.